Welcome to the Fashion is Cool podcast, where we explore fashion's business side and the entrepreneurs behind it. Hosted by Dwight Carter, your guide to diverse careers and inspiring stories in fashion.
Hello and welcome to the Fashion is Cool podcast. I am your host, Dwight Carter, and our guest is the VP of Partnership Development and Education at Starz Design Group and the Executive Director of the St. Louis Fashion Alliance, Audra Harrold. Audra, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well, and I love the VIP little slip there.
Yeah, I know.
I'll take it.
I'm going to keep
I'm doing
that.
well.
Can you tell us? I think we met at the Ritz for a meeting, right? We were connected. It wasn't Susan Sherman. It was whoever was running the fashion fund at that time. Like who? Right? Is that right?
Well, being how I can't remember what I had for breakfast. That far. No, it's very possible. That's probably, I believe it was a meeting that we met, and I believe it was at the Ritz.
Yeah.
But we've known each other for quite a few years. So
Yeah. I don't know if I met because you. We'll talk about that. Let's get into how you got started. 'Cause I think I probably met you at where there was a small batch production place that you were running a what is it called? What's it called with the horses?
my Sassy Bowl Equestrian line. Yeah.
So I think we met there because I used to go up there because Paul Gibson was working with them or doing all of this production there. And they used to have a lot of events there too. I think we actually started talking when I had the idea of Fashion Anarchy and we met at the Ritz. But why don't you get into, because this podcast is about exploring all the different careers in fashion, and you have a solid background in the industry, so let's talk about how you got.
Yeah, I think I'm probably your poster child for like jack of all trades, master of, well, many, we'll say that. But how I entered the fashion industry really was non-traditional. So going back, so 2013-ish, somewhere in there, I was riding horses, and I was finding I'd had 2 children. My body was a little different, and I was finding that the clothes I was wearing when I was riding didn't fit how I wanted them to. And I found that as I was riding this 1,200-pound animal with a mind of its own, I'm tugging on my clothes. And that's not a good combination because you really need to be focused on your ride and what you're doing versus, tugging on your clothing. And so I tried a bunch of different brands, and I just didn't find the one that fit just right. And I'd had 2 kids. My body was a little different. It wasn't 21 anymore. And so I needed something that fit differently. And so since I couldn't find it, I decided to do something about it. And not having a traditional background in fashion, not being a designer, going to FIT or any of that, I surrounded myself with people who did know. And so Laura Kathleen Baker was probably one of the first people that I connected with. And she's amazing. I learned a lot from her. She was an absolute just godsend to me as far as, obviously, she knew what she was doing, had been in the industry for a long time, but also her connections and who she introduced me to. So fast forward, I ended up manufacturing in Brooklyn, and Laura really helped me. She went to my first show to help me really understand the ropes and things like that. And after that, I'll just kind of fast forward through some of that. I made a lot of mistakes, which is kind of how I ended up sitting here talking to you today. And I started the brand, and I over inventoried. I did all the stuff you're not supposed to do. And then I pivoted the brand because I found that these younger riders were interested in the branding and the marketing messaging because it was a little naughty. It was Sassy Bowl was the name. It was a pink bowl, so it's a little bit of an oxymoron. And so I had like the marketing message was like kick sass and some cute little, play on words there. And I'm looking at my then, my son at the time who was about the same age, maybe a little bit younger. And I'm like trying these marketing messages out on him. And I'm like, I can't say that. That's a little too edgy, some of the things. So I found I had to really soften the marketing message, which just didn't fit the brand. So full circle story, I had piloted a few, youth sizing, if you will, and tried it out. I was like, yeah, this just doesn't fit. We just need to stop everything for a little bit, time out. Let's get rid of some of this inventory. So I had this pop-up event just to get rid of some of it. And this lady comes to the pop-up event and she starts asking a lot of questions about equestrian apparel and about Sassy Bowl and everything. And I was like, as I say young in my business entrepreneur, I was like, well, who is this? I think is she a spy? Is she starting her own, equestrian, line here in St. Louis? Like there's just not enough room for us here. And this is not really the riding mecca here. So what happened was the truth of the story is she had purchased a small batch manufacturing facility. And with the purchase of the facility was an entire line of show clothing patterns for equestrian. Now I was doing the sport side. So think your Lululemon, your everyday apparel, the, kind of the training apparel. She had patterns for the show clothing side, which I always swore I'd never get into. And so, because I feel like I need to explain that, the Europeans really had the market cornered for the traditional show clothing apparel. And introducing a U.S. brand is a really big skiff you. And so that's why I shied away from it. Plus, the reality is when you show a horse, you put on your jacket, you show your horse, you take your jacket off, it goes to the dry cleaners, it sits in your closet, and you pull it back out your next show. You might be showing, 8 to 10 times a year, but you're not wearing through it. And unless you're having major weight fluctuations, you're pretty much going to wear that same jacket for 10 plus years. So long story short, we ended up having a conversation, and I found that the having a small batch manufacturing facility here in St. Louis was a game changer. Because I was manufacturing in Brooklyn, I was flying back and forth, I'm shipping back and forth. And to have it here was like, I can just drive down the road and, go check on things or do this, do that. Anyway, so I ended up moving everything and manufacturing here in St. Louis. And we'll get into it later, but that's one thing that we really need here is small batch manufacturing on a big scale if we can. I think that's really one of the missing links. But we had it here. Fast forward, we did some manufacturing with the line. Again, there was a lot of challenges with the business partnership and things that had really nothing to do with the quality of the apparel. And we ended up severing our relationship as far as the business went. So I took my stuff back and she took her stuff back. In the meantime, I was working down at the factory. And I was with Paul Gibson and a couple other people, and it was like, okay, we need to create community here. And what are we doing to bring St. Louis together? Now, we're talking back 2018-ish. And so I had developed a membership program while I was there. We're like, let's pilot this.
I remember that.
Okay. We did a soft launch with it. It really was a brilliant, and I say that because no, it really was a brilliant model. And to bring everyone together at the same time, this is at the very end of going towards the end of 2018, and the Fashion Fund was finishing up their incubator. So they were about done with their 2 years, and they were looking to pivot as well. And Kathleen Bibbins, who was the executive director at the time, had come to our soft launch of our membership event. And afterwards, she said to me, hey, we're doing a membership program because we're shifting to be more towards the local designers, and the incubator is ending, and we're going to do a membership. So anyway, it was like we all have a membership programs, right? Mm-hmm. So big of a community. So she and I sat down and whiteboarded everything, and really 85% of what I had created for the manufacturing facility for membership really made more sense under a nonprofit umbrella. So that's how my organic path led me to be working for the fashion. And the timing was perfect with, the incubator ending, them looking to support local and fill the offices. They're just the beautiful offices that were down on Wash Ave. so it made natural sense for me to just naturally go over there and help with the membership program there. And unfortunately, at that same time, well, fortunately for me, because I was moving on, but unfortunately, the small batch manufacturing facility did shutter at the end of 2018. So they no longer existed. So that brings us to 2019. I'm at the Fashion Fund, and that's where we did Fashion Anarchy. That was amazing. That was so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah.
And then went all the way through COVID. And then, well, we know what happened in April of 2020. You know,
Yeah,
we couldn't do any of that. All that fun stuff you and I were doing with lots of people, and couldn't do it anymore. That's when I shut down, and then Kristen had called, Kristen Family, and she had asked me. She said, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, why do you ask?" And she had started the Alliance as a directory and a calendar, and we sat down and talked about it. And she and I are so well aligned with just our morals and our values and the things that we felt were important for St. Louis. And so us coming together really made a lot of sense. And so that's where we started the Alliance. So that's kind of the cliff notes into how I got adoption.
Okay, gotcha. And Kristen started the factory fashion show.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So she was doing factory fashion and the night markets and all of that. So yeah.
So so you've worked in other non-for-profits too, right? I think you won. So how does fashion and non-for-profits intersect, and how does it help the collaborations of in St. Louis, all the different?
Yeah, so as far as my nonprofit experience, I've worked for very large nonprofits and very small nonprofits. I used to work for the American Cancer Society, which is a monster nonprofit and probably one of the best run, well-oiled machines out there. They really know what they're doing. I mean, they obviously have millions and millions and millions of dollars too. But I learned a lot from working with them, the structure that makes sense for a nonprofit to run, and just obviously on a smaller scale. But with nonprofits and the importance of them is that there's no ulterior motive because we're there to help. We're there to provide resources. We're not there to, take off and fly a private jet, because that's just not going to really happen in the nonprofit world. Although I wish, it would for me, but that's not the reality. We do it because we love what we do. We do it because we want to help. And we hope we do make a difference with the people that we're helping.
So the Fashion Alliance, so are you still mainly just a directory, or you're doing a lot of events now? I think you've kind of pivoted that concept a little bit too.
Yeah, so what we did is when Kristen and I started, we're like, okay, let's start with just some events. We did go and meet with the Fashion Fund. We met with Starz Design. We met with a lot of players in town to say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're bringing to the table. We felt very passionately that we wanted to make sure we weren't duplicating services. We wanted to make sure we weren't stepping on anyone else's toes. We were brand new, to the table. So we made sure that we let everyone know what we're doing. And our piece of the ecosystem pie is the local fashion professionals and students. That's the piece that we're we don't, economic development, great. All these other pieces are fabulous. And we all need to be working together to move St. Louis forward. So that was our commitment, was that local piece, really, really focusing on that local piece.
And what challenges did you have? What challenges are there being involved or, running a non-for-profit organization? Because you hear the word non-for-profit means you're not, not making any money. But it's a full-time job.
Not making any money.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah,
I think, the thing with nonprofits, passion really does drive nonprofits. If you're not passionate about it, you're just going through the motions. But for me personally, because of the mistakes I made, I would say learning experiences with Sassy Bowl and my past, everything I've done, every roadblock I hit, it's the end of the world kind of thing, all of that has come together to do why I do what I do today. It gets me up in the morning. It's just for some people, I'm don't do what I did. Let me help you not do that. So to answer your question, nonprofits are truly driven by passion. The number one challenge, and I think probably 99.9% of nonprofits would say this, is money. It's funding. It's getting people to, it's not like for the Alliance, we have no problem people believing in what we're doing and people showing up and people supporting us. The hard part is getting the community to pull out their checkbooks and say, hey, we really believe in what you're doing and we want to help fund it. So that's the next step in our story, is that we've got some amazing things that we're going to be doing, especially very tail end of 24, but all of 25 that I'd love to share with you. And so that's, to me, that's what we're looking for too, is to make sure we can do these things and offer these things to the community.
And you're involved in a lot of the universities and high school as well. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Well, let me back up just a tiny bit and explain the programming of the Alliance, because when Kristen and I started, and maybe I didn't finish my thought earlier, we kind of piloted a few things to figure out what would stick. So after we talked to everyone in the community, we're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. So we started the first Fashion Fridays. Now we moved them to Tuesday because we found that people weren't really into doing something work related at 5:30 on a Friday. They're tired. So we moved it to Tuesday, and that's been a huge success to move it to a day that everyone's kind of fresh in the week. So what we did is we took the time to really pilot a few different things. And where we are today is, I would say, solid. So we support, again, fashion professionals and students, high school and college level, through 3 pillars of programming, which is connection, education, and grant. The connection pillar, under that is our first Fashion Tuesdays, the calendar, the community calendar, the directory that was the original start of the Alliance. And then we also have space out at West County Mall, which we call Fashion West. And that space out there is for meetings. If a designer wants to meet a client for a fitting, they can use the space. If we want to have a lunch and learn, we've done a few of those. A reception, a celebration. Students want to put mannequins in the showroom. It's basically a showroom. We are not a retail space. We will never be a retail space. We are truly a showroom to the community about what St. Louis fashion looks like. So that's connection. The education pillar is continuing ed, public ed, and the high school program. So continuing ed is just how it sounds. Lunch and learns to increase your social media followers. The public education's fun. So it's really educating the public in a fun way and opening our doors to include them in our industry. So if you think about fashion, it's kind of like, what's going on behind that curtain? It's like, we're more, come on in. We want to share with you and show you and have an appreciation or hope you have an appreciation for what we do. So for example, we were and still hoping to have a collaboration with City Sewing Room, excuse me, where the public will come in. You don't have to ever have touched a sewing machine in your life. And your model is a wine bottle. So it's a sip and stitch. And you learn all the different, sorry, I drank some water.
Is that water?
That is, but I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's water. No, I'm getting over that cold. So every once in a while, I'm
yeah. No, I get it.
Okay, I'll start over with the City Sewing Room.
Okay.
Okay, feeling good. Sorry. I'm glad we didn't do this last week because it would have been a disaster. Okay, so public education, for example, a collaboration with the City Sewing Room where a wine bottle is your model and you never have had to touch a sewing machine in your life. So it makes it fun for the public to come in, but they learn every stage a designer goes through. So they have to sketch, and it's a wine bag, so it's apparel for your model. But they have to sketch. Then they have to cut out a pattern. Then they go source their fabric. Then they have to learn, just a different, and it just creates an appreciation for every step a designer goes through to get from that idea to the final product. So just fun things like that is what public education is. And then the high school program, that is I hate to use the word curriculum because that sounds very school, and we want this to be fun for the students. But basically what it is we will have modules every month, and every month we'll have a theme. And it is to support fashion clubs that are already existing, to inspire fashion clubs to be started. They can be accessed by students who are just interested in fashion and maybe not have a program at all at their school. They can live in the city. They can live very rural. If they have access to the internet, they have access to fashion. And the cool thing about our modules and our program is we're highlighting St. Louis. So, for example, if we're going to do these vignettes, and you will and get their story and learn about what they've done. And it's in just a fun little tidy 3-minute video where you can be connected, but you're not listening to a designer who's in New York or in LA and you feel so disconnected from them because you're here in the Midwest. It's like, wait, that person lives here and they're successful here in St. Louis. And if I really need to try to talk to them, I could have access to them. So that's the purpose of the high school program, is really exploring all those occupations and providing the pathways as well. So that's where we work with the colleges and things like that. We will also have a mini college, I guess college fair is the right word.
Yeah.
A mini college fair that will be housed where these students can see where there's programs in the United States where you're not just defaulting to, FIT and SCAD, like those are fabulous schools. But there's also like Kent State University is a great example. You can have a quote normal college experience and study fashion at a very robust program. They've got Fashion Week. They've got Satellite Campus in New York City. There's amazing programs out there. University of Cincinnati is another one. So I think helping these students explore what all the options are. And then also locally, like, is it community college? Is it a tech school for what they want to do? And really helping them explore the pathways as well. So that's the high school program. And then our third pillar is grants. They're mini grants. They will launch in 2025, and there'll be 2 different types of grants. One grant is for professionals that it's basically to put St. Louis on a bigger stage. So it's not necessarily, I need material for this collection. I have the opportunity to be on, and I know she doesn't have a show anymore, but I have an opportunity to be on Oprah or something like that. That's putting St. Louis on a bigger stage. So we might be able to help fund the trip to, wherever, Chicago, I guess should be. So those are the types of things on the professional side. And then on the educator side of the grants, I am very passionate that no teacher should ever have to pull out of their own private money, their own pocket, to pay for resources for our students. And especially if it's something to start a fashion program, if they need a sewing machine, if they need fabric, if they need whatever it is they need, if we can't get it donated for them, then these grants will help fund their fashion program or whatever it is that they want to do. If they want to do a field trip, for example, they live in a rural area, they want to come down here to Starz Design Group, that we can help, we feel that's beneficial for them to learn what's going on here, that we can help fund that field trip. So those are the grants.
So are you helping them, you actually helping or funding, or are you helping them write the grant, or both?
No, we would be funding. They're very small. We're talking like under 5,000. We're not doing big grants at all, but most of them will probably just be, I'd say, a couple hundred. It's just to get them over that, to have these experiences or have the materials to be able to explore fashion.
That's pretty cool. I don't think I even knew that was part of your business model.
Yeah.
And that launches, you said, in 2025?
Yeah, it'll probably be later, 2025. Yeah, probably Q3. Probably as school gets started back up again. We've got a lot of other things that we're doing before that. And then next year, we will be doing the College Career and Opportunity Summit. We did make the decision this year to postpone it. So it will be October 3rd, 2025. And that is basically our high school program, all in one space, all one day on steroids. So we'll be looking forward to next year.
So going back to high school, I don't remember when I was in high school there being any fashion programs. Now it seems to be pretty big in the majority of all the high schools. Do you see that in a lot? Like when you have this summit, are there specific high schools that have programs, or are there just students from high schools that are interested in the fashion industry?
It's both. It's both. Okay. And it's not just when we say fashion industry, we default to, apparel design and footwear design and things like that. This is all the occupations. So marketing, blogging, if that's still a thing, like all those other pieces. And I always use the example of, we all go watch a Cardinals game, maybe not lately, but we're watching the Cardinals game and we're focusing on the field and we see the players on the field and we never really stop to think about how many people it takes to make that one game happen. Because we're focused on those few players that are on the field, but you've got the groundskeepers and the people selling the food and the beer guy coming down and all those other players. It takes hundreds of people just to make one game happen. Never mind the scheduling and all the pre-stuff. So what we want to do is showcase there are all these occupations, not just fashion design. Like there's so many other pieces that make fashion happen. And you might be a marketing business major and be like, but I do kind of like fashion. So that's where, it makes sense for you to, explore fashion.
That's great. Yeah. Doing this podcast, I've learned so much about the different careers. Like I didn't know we had a fashion law firm in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had Jill Manoff on, before, and, that's fashion journalism.
Yeah.
That isn't really taught in your universities. It's like you have your fashion design, you have your fashion, I guess maybe fashion entrepreneurship that kind of covers everything in one, I guess maybe a semester. And then you have your retail merchandising. And that's it. But no one, like you said, no one sees the other side of the fashion industry, like your stylists, your color analysts, your buyers and all that stuff. Like it's not really taught specifically as a major.
Well, even science. I mean, that's something you wouldn't think about, but just science. I mean, there's a company now that we're working with called Ciclo, and maybe it's Ciclo. Anyway, they're based in North Carolina. It is a U.S. company, and they are transforming how synthetics are made and how they're going to decompose in the landfills. Because right now, it's 300 to 500 years for a polyester to decompose. They're injecting, and again, I'm not a scientist, so I don't understand it. That's my disclaimer. But how I understand it is when they create the polyester with the pellets, they're pellets that it's like an enzyme, I believe, that will help the polyester decompose in 3 to 5 years instead of 300 to 500. So these are things that we don't think about, that science is a part of fashion and chemistry. Yeah. I mean, that's, there's so much that we don't think about. And I really feel strongly these young people need to know about so they can make an educated choice of which direction they want to go in life. And it gives them just all these different options that I think are really cool. So
that's cool. I was this is probably this is before COVID. Everything was before COVID. But I was a guest speaker at I think they were fourth grade class, where they were taking construction paper and yarn and learning how to make things. Like, I guess it would be clothing, but it was like paper.
Uh-huh.
And so it's even going that young now. Like, if they're teaching so many different trades at a younger age than they did when I was in school. I just, we had the basics.
Yeah.
We
well, you and I were in school. We were in school at the same time, so it's a few years ago. We don't need to talk about how long ago.
We're just now learning things.
Yeah. Hey, better late than never, right? So yeah, so we're excited to work with the high school kids. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Let's transition into Starz.
Sure.
Now. Okay, so now you're VP. Can you talk about your title and everything you do?
Sure. I'm the VIP.
VIP. You're the VIP.
The VIP. Hey, you started it. Vice President of Partnership Development and Education. So what does that mean? It's a big fancy title. Let me break it down. So really, my job is to connect with and create partnerships, which is what I feel I'm really good at. And part of it is to create partnerships with companies that may not know anything about apparel. So, for example, we'll just say company A, let's say they, I don't know, brew beer or something, and their expertise is not in apparel. It's in, their product, whatever that may be. And so but they do have apparel, or they have either branded apparel, or they have uniforms. Then that's something that we come in and we can do that for them. So we're basically the silent partner that can make all of that happen while they focus on whatever product it is that they're producing. And so I think it's and what we do is custom apparel. So that's different than like the promotional apparel. That's like you pull it off the rack or pull it off the shelf and put your logo on and off you go. That's very different than what we do. We do completely customized apparel. So ours is going to be one, you're going to see it in the fabrications, the fit, the design, the notions, all the trims, everything is going to be elevated and it's going to wear better. It's going to wear longer. It's going to have the hand that you want. I mean, I can go on and on and on. It's going to be better, but that's what we do. So my job is to create those partnerships and say, hey, we can help you if you need 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, however many units you need, we can make that happen for you. And for example, another great example would be like a casino. Think of all the uniforms at a casino. You've got your dealers, you've got your housekeeping staff, you've got your pool staff, you've got your front desk staff, there's so many uniforms. And when we think of uniforms, a lot of time we think kind of like polyester and like you can't move.
Yeah.
They're beautiful uniforms that you're comfortable in because you're going to be wearing them every day. So I think that's what really differentiates Starz Design Group from like a promotional apparel company.
All right. It's kind of like your reference to the baseball field.
Yeah.
You may buy the beer, but you don't really, you notice what they're wearing as a branded piece, and it's drawing you to that product, but you're not thinking about how that happened before, and that's how you're drawn to that product because of the branding.
Yeah, and also I think if you have an elevated product, you're going to want your apparel to match that elevated product. So, if you have like the cheapest beer and that's what you're selling, and I have the cheapest beer and that's what I sell, have the cheapest t-shirt to match it, it's fine because it's in line with your product. But if your marketing message is I've got an elevated product here, it makes you, and your commercial is, you're on a yacht or whatever. A stiff t-shirt does not correlate with the experience that you're selling with your. So that's one thing that Starz Design Group does bring, is that we can match that that marketing message, that feel, that experience of the product. And we can handle it all for you. You just keep selling that product and we can make it happen. We've got a full team here. You can walk in with an idea on a cocktail napkin, and we can take that idea and work with you all the way to having everything delivered to your warehouse.
So what's a typical day for you?
Well, I get up about 6. I try to go for a walk if it's not too hot. No, I'm very fortunate with my schedule, and I wear a lot of hats. So I kind of, moving around a lot. And so a typical day for me, I do come down to Starz Design Group every day. I do have an office here. I do love being here. I can still do some alliance things and keep that going because there is a lot of, as you know, a lot of overlap and intersection that makes sense. And it's just so fun to, have like our marketing manager, she comes in and sits down and we run ideas off of each other, and she'll maybe say something and I'll be like, oh yeah, we know those people, or yeah, this makes sense to do together, whatever the situation is. So for me, being here, it's a great place to just really watch our industry come together because there's so many players. So, but yeah, I'm pretty much here all day. That's a typical day for me, or out in the community.
Yeah. And so can you tell us a little bit more about Starz as a whole?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's the best. Yeah, it really is. I will say, I mean, this is no exaggeration or anything. This is probably the best team I've ever worked with. The staff here are exceptional. Everyone knows what they're doing. It's a really comfortable, very supportive environment. When the interns were here this summer, every Friday they had this like intern education. And so a different department would come in and talk for about an hour about what they did. So since I was new, I sat in on every single one of those intern educations. And the things I learned, especially logistics, just how things are moving and keeping track of when something leaves a factory overseas and how it gets to the port and everything that has to happen and all the inspections that have to happen. And a lot of those are Starz Design Group. We have inspections way above what I think is the minimum, that like you have to have this to do, but we're way up here. So things do not leave the factory unless they're just right. We have people that are here that travel to the factories and will like make sure that our factory partners are, it's perfect, So I think I learned that I think logistics was the one that really opened my eyes the most about getting a product from somewhere else to, your closet. It's mind-boggling. So, and just all the things they have to know is, all the stuff with
Yeah.
but it's fascinating. So I really enjoyed sitting in those intern education seminars, I guess, if you will, sessions. I learned so much. There's so many moving parts at Starz, and it's seamless how it works together. And so that's why we can be that silent partner for someone who isn't in apparel, and they can have the confidence in Starz Design Group because we can do it. And everyone has their job and does it really well. So.
Awesome. Can you talk about the internship program?
Sure. So I believe this past summer was our first summer. I believe there's about 6, 7, 8. I don't know. It's probably going to change for next summer, but I'll kind of tell you what I know today. But what it is, it's a full summer, and it is you're all in. Like you're doing the job. You're not filing. You're not sitting over in the corner. Like it is a full experience internship. And one thing that we're going to be doing, I believe this fall, we're working on it right now, so don't quote me, but we are looking at other experiences for students. And I'm driving that. I really want, even if it's a week, does that make sense to have someone in here for a week or a group of students? I think so. I think just any bit of experience and exposure that these students have for even whether it's a full summer or a short week or a 1 day, whatever, I think any exposure will help them go, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I learned something. Oh, that's something I want to explore.
So do you believe that internships are too short when you're going through a university? I believe they're too short, and this is why. Well, coming from the event side of things, it takes 6, 7 months to plan. When you get an intern for the fall, school starts late August, and then exams are the first week in December. So you really only have them for 2.5, 3 months, and they don't get a chance to see the final product, what they did. And that's just in my industry, but I think they're too short. I think they should be a year or as long as they want, honestly. But some schools have them where they're just semesters, what a year.
Yeah, no, I'm shaking my head like this and nodding the whole time you're talking because I do agree with. I think it depends on the project too and the type of internship. If it's something that is a shorter project, is it okay to be shorter? Sure. Your example of event planning, yeah, that just kind of would really stink to be a part of the whole process, and then it's like the event went on, without being able to really see what you helped contribute to. So I have experienced that with the Alliance interns, where I felt, gosh, you're working on this, but you're not going to see the end result. So to answer your question, I think it should be definitely on a case-by-case basis. I do think the longer you're in an internship, of course, you're going to learn more. So even if it's a short project, could you do another project? Of course. So yeah, I think, they should all be longer. I think a lot of the colleges are really starting to embrace that co-op model. So you do go out into the real world and you do go have experience, and then you come and you're still in school. So then you come back. And I think University of Cincinnati is one to look up, where they have, I believe it's a 5-year program where they go to school, and then the next semester or trimester, whatever they're on, they go and do a co-op. And then they're back in school, and then they co-op. So it's like around the calendar. So they're in and out of the formal classroom. I think it's a really interesting model. I think a lot of universities are starting to really explore that more.
That's good. Because it's tough. It's tough when now I have interns, and I ask them specifically, are you allowed to continue if your semester is over? And some of them just stay on as long as they can, to finish their project.
Yeah. Well, you've always had great interns, and I think you've been organized with your interns, so I think they do get a great experience when they work with you.
Yeah, I mean that's the best education. I think hands-on.
100%.
Way better. What do you advise a college student that is looking to get into fashion industry as an entrepreneur, as start a business?
Well, first I'd say come to St. Louis
Yeah.
if you're not here already.
Yeah.
And I obviously am from here, but or not from here, but I live here and I support St. Louis. But the reason I say that is that we are really a supportive community, and we want others to succeed. And I think that the one situation that stands out to me the most was during the first fashion anarchy, and it was one of the designers was struggling, and he was self-taught, and another designer is pretty far down the road. Like she's pretty, she's really good. Anyway, I remember them talking, and he shared with me that he was struggling. It was late night, and that she stopped what she was doing to go help him. And they're in a competition,
Right.
and it just doesn't happen everywhere in the world. So, and I think that St. Louis has this special vibe in fashion here. We really are building this community. I really feel it coming together, and I'd be like, come to St. Louis because there's support here. There are people who want you to succeed. So that's what I would tell a college student, no matter where they are in the U.S.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that you can do your fashion business anywhere. You don't have to overpopulate the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call it, overpopulating the East Coast. If you have a special gift or talent in your own city, why not just stay there? And with technology now, you can do this from anywhere.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly.
Man, this has been great. I love this conversation. It could go on and on.
I know. I feel like you and I haven't seen you for once. I feel like you were just like chatting.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. And I'm so blessed to have so many connections that I can learn from, because I'm learning too. I didn't start off in the fashion industry. I got in the fashion industry when I was 32 years old. So it's been great. And it's all the people in St. Louis that have helped me kind of evolve and learn more and more about this industry. It's like, we're going to pivot a little bit into questions not about fashion.
Oh boy. You know why that makes me nervous?
Why is everyone so scared? No, not being so scared. And these are off the top of my head, so we're just gonna we're winging
Fire
it.
away. Go for it. Go for it.
All right. What is Audra's favorite place to go on vacation?
Home. Shut the doors with my dogs. Lock the doors. And I
not just St. Louis, like your.
Like my four walls. That's a great question. There's so many beautiful places in the world I've yet to see. So I would say right now, my next on my bucket list would be maybe South Africa. It's always been on my list. It popped up, Limitless Travels doing some, I got an email. I'm like, ooh, that sounds fun. So I love to explore. I love to go. My last trip overseas was Morocco, which was amazing. And I highly recommend to go there. The other favorite place, I guess, I was just there, is Knoxville, Tennessee, because my son is there at school. So that's a great place. I don't know how much vacationing I was just visiting, but yeah, I would say home or really far away. In South Africa would probably be next on my list.
Okay. So what about your favorite? You have a favorite athlete?
Oh, like current or past?
Overall, your favorite.
Okay, that's really hard, but I'll go past. So I would say my favorite athlete, and I guess my most influential athlete on my personal life, was Rosalind Sumners. And if anyone remembers who she is, she was an ice skater. She got the silver medal in the 1984 Olympics. And the reason she was probably my favorite athlete is I used to be an ice skater and a competitive ice skater, and she was training at the same time I was, and we got on this bus with this big giant pink panther because that was her like mascot, and all took her to the airport and like to go send her off into I think it was Sarajevo maybe was the Olympics that year. But I just remember feeling like, gosh, if she can do it, so can I. And like I always just focused on that, like because she was right there, you know. So I think she influenced me in a way that, well, if she can do it, so can I. If you can do it, so can I. There's no reason I can't do it. So she's always, even after all these years, been in the back of my head. So I would say she's my favorite athlete.
See, these questions are very important because I had no idea that you were a competitive ice skater.
I was actually a ballerina too.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, competitive
Man.
ice skater. Broke
Well,
my
so-
knee when I was 12, and that ended my career.
Okay. So you were a ballerina before?
I
Yes,
was a
good.
ballerina at the same time, and I actually had a scholarship at a very prestigious ballet school called Pacific Northwest Ballet, kind of like the Joffrey Ballet School for Seattle.
Yeah.
And the director of the school called my mother and I in at one point and sat me down with all my teachers and said, Audra has to choose between ice skating and ballet, because ballet, you're working on turnout, and ice skating, you're developing more quads. And so they were contradicting each other.
Yeah.
And so they were like, if she's going to continue as a ballerina, she can't skate. But if she's going to be a skater, we'll change how we work with her as a ballerina. So I made the choice to ice skate. And then probably a year or so later, I broke my knee. So it was that. But yeah.
Oh my God, Audra, man. So many.
Like I said, jack of all trades. It's
I
all
know,
that.
yeah. You got a lot of talking to do about your history.
I ran
Well-
track too, if that counts.
Oh my God. So
In
you
high
were an
school.
athlete. You were an
Oh, yeah.
athlete. Yeah. Okay. So it's awesome.
The things you probably learned from the people you're interviewing.
I know. It's cool because, we want to get to know, it's, talking about the fashion industry, but like talking about who the person is, you connect even more with them. You get to know them. And man, and I think I know the people that I'm interviewing, and I'm what?
You don't know as well as you think you did. So.
I mean, when I interviewed Paul Gibson and we were talking about how we met, I missed a whole year of our friendship.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm like, great. Well, anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you rattle off your socials and website and all this stuff?
Social security number. I was like, no, that's hilarious.
Oh my God.
Like,
That's
blood type B positive. I'll give you that.
We want to know everything about our guests.
Should see my family. Feel like that's weird. All of this to lead up to steal my identity. Okay, we got your history. Now we got your social. That's it.
That's all we needed.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I want to say is that, as far as St. Louis and fashion is support local. Go buy from from these designers. Go to your local boutiques. Like, let's just really support what's here, and go do that. Everyone, go do that.
Yeah.
So, and then tag me at STL Fashion Alliance.
All right. Gotcha.
For the alliance.
Nice.
So awesome. Dwight, thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show with us today. And thank all of you for watching, listening. Please like, share, subscribe, do all the things. And I will see you next time. Have a good day.